Alright, looks like I'm live. So, it's been literally a week since the last one of these, and I apologize. I got real sick real fast after the Cleveland game, and there was a lot of other stress going on. You can check out the video update about it. But, it's time to get back to business, right? I did post something real quick on YouTube showing my weight loss, as some of you put in the chat already. 2 more weeks of that, and then hopefully that'll be it. There's no video yet. I have been filming it, but we're getting there, you know, it takes a bit. But most of you know how this works. Just put in the comments what you want me to talk about, or, you know, the chat, and I'll answer them as we go. BD thinks being a little late is stylish. No, normally I am on time. Like very on time, like early is on time for me, but not lately, unfortunately. So Hitman has a frenulum tear even at low pumping pressures. That's not low if it's 10 to 12 inches of mercury. So Tuesday I've been hanging 4 by 15 by 2 pounds. Morning and night after 5 minutes of break. So you're doing 2 hours total? Like daily with a frenulum tear? Are you sure that's the best idea? And how am I doing today? I mean, I'm a lot healthier than I was. I'm still a little sick, basically bringing up stuff that I have not brought up yet. I'm just fatigued from the diet more than anything else right now. All right, so Peanut, I have a tough one for you. Variables, another shot I've gained 0.3 in length and 1/4 inch in girth in 4 months. The last month being X-Mix. How much can I expect in 6 to 12 months realistically? So like the most you can really gain in a year is about 1 inch of length and 1/2 inch of girth if you're lucky and get everything right to begin with, which is going to like literally cause you to gain 20% more dick. If you gained 20% more muscle mass, like comparatively speaking, it would probably take you a little longer when we're just talking about volume. So it's sizable. 6 months, that's when you're going to see like the wall. So like it'll not as easy as it was for the first 6 months going forward. This is where you actually get into tissue growth rather than tissue optimization. Okay, Jamar, my bone press flaccid can get as low as 3.8. My BPL is 7. As a big grower, I can see significant gains based on the shape change part of the Reddit post you made last week due to bound up collagen. I don't know if 3.8 is actually that significant of a show or grower rather. I literally know guys, I'll go from 2 inches flaccid to 7 inches erect. That would be like a super grower though. You're definitely probably closer to the grower side, but it's not going to really kill you if you don't do like the all day stretching and everything else like that. It's just a possibility that it would help you immensely. Like, you know, like we would have to see what it looks like after the first month or so to know if it would actually be a major benefit. That being said, I went from like 3 inches flaccid to like 4.5 inches flaccid within the first couple months or so, and like my dick grew about 1/2 inch erect to maybe a little bit more than that in the first 4 or 5 months. So to me, it's really a crapshoot, but you know. Tula, I want to say thanks to your idea splitting the pumping session. I do 2 per day in the morning and after my apex session and before bed. I feel my D all day long like heavy. Yeah, that's the entire point. So if the bigger you are, the longer you're that size, the more likely you are to be that shape long term, right? Now the hard thing is trying to figure out if it's going to be just edema swell like under the skin that's causing this like heaviness. But in general, if it's a good shape, a very mild bloat, and then we're really looking for vascularity, that's going to make sure that like we're doing the right thing. BD bringing back the 2010s undercut looking great. I don't know if it's from 2010s, but this is It's supposed to be a bit more of a punk hairstyle. I just have a lot of options with it. So let's see. Baby Peanut, what is the risk reward ratio to using a cock ring after pumping? Like, the results are noticeable, or are they very minor enough to where it doesn't make much of a difference long term? So like, the only thing I could really say helps with girth for sure is going to be some kind of massage mechanic after the fact. It's literally just getting your tissues to relax so you can expand them faster. That is probably the biggest benefit I've seen from like all my girth training, is just adding the massage mechanics. It just makes a night and day difference for a lot of guys. Now, the cock ring, I can't tell you how effective it is on its own, like, you know, with pumping, because like I've always done some kind of like cock ring after pumping, whether it be clamping right after pumping or something else. I've gained about half an inch in 8 months of girth training with that kind of method, with some kind of occlusion right after pumping. So the risk is lymphatic issues, right? And more discoloration, to like potentially, you know, making sure you actually gain, right? I don't know if there's any like actual math we can do to figure out how much more effective it is, but to me, I think it is very beneficial, to the point where if you don't get any lymphoseals, take the discoloration hit and do it. And then, how much did you change that? How did you change that much in 62 days, especially face fat? You need to drop an update video on that. So yeah, I'm working on that. Like, it's not going to be as comprehensive as the first one was, but basically the diet is exactly the same in the first video, where I lost like, I can't remember, like 17 pounds in 13 days. And then it's just been a consistent 2 to 3 pounds per week since then. I wasn't overly fat to begin with, believe it or not. Like, it was maybe 22 to 24% body fat. You can say I'm wrong in chat right now, but I'd like to think I'm about 13% body fat. So that's how much my face has changed, just from going from a little bit above average body fat to well into fitness range. But yeah, all it really is just being in a severe deficit for a long time and basically cutting out all fats from my diet, or like, you know, 80% of my fats. Hitman, the P-lotion is actually fixing the discoloration that got worse before it got better, kind of drying it up, but I'm starting to see a difference now. Now that's interesting. It does increase vasodilation, so any blood to the skin is going to make it look more red. Then over time, I can see that help clearing anything that is not overly heavy. It's not an exfoliator, so it's not going to bring up a lot of different, you know, trap things in the skin. But I could see it helping evening out tone. So it might not be so much as a discoloration fix as it is an evenness fix. Wow, what went into this chat? Let's see. Did that one? Okay. So, Jacob, what are your thoughts on the Phallus Forte aside from the price? So, like, I don't know if I can talk about this, but Massive Novelties is having a very competitive product drop very soon. That is going to be like a third of the cost of the Phallus Forte. It works for what I teach for shape retention. You can do some moderate to, I'm just going to say moderate high tension, so up to like 6 pounds of the Phallus Forte. I think that's what they're doing at Massive Novelties as well, up to 6 pounds. So you can do like some high tension stuff, but like it's going to be really good for those guys that need to do PE discreetly while at work, or, you know, doing chores around the house while the family's still around. I don't think it's going to be the best device ever made, the Phallus Forte. I think it fits as a tool in the box, but it's not worth the price. When will Vigor be available in the UK and EU? So that's something we need to work on, but like, you guys got different supplement laws than we do, so I need to like actually get new labels for that. I realized this a couple weeks ago, and then it's more so that we need to figure out fulfillment over there. And like, I have a couple companies picked out, but like between everything else going on in my personal life and business, that's been like priority B instead of priority A, getting shipment to Europe, because like based off of like my own demographics, like half of our viewers are outside the United States. So like if we can get into Europe, that is just going to be very easy money for the business. So like it is a priority. It's just like we got a lot of stuff going on. So Robert, when doing a cycle or going into the cylinder, okay, hard with the curve. The head is always pressing against the cylinder whole time. Already using a 3-inch ID cylinder. I'm at 7 by 5.5. I get 1.1/2 of inch flat spot when pulling out. Worry? So like, you mean flat spot like on the glands? That's a little interesting. Personally, I have a bit of a curve too. I still use a cylinder that fits me pretty well, and my glands basically drag along the top just as well. So I haven't seen anything. Just make sure you are using plenty of lubricant. It'll either be a coconut oil or something else, and you should be good. Okay, Humvee. What if I pump in the AM 4 sets 5 minutes? Okay. What bathmate use an all-day stretcher for 6 to 8 hours, pump midday and before bed. Already had the shape change, but don't seem to get any more gain. So if you're going for length, you're actually going to need some kind of high tension stuff to get length gains, because like the catalyst for length gains is tissue fatigue, and you're probably not going to get that with an all-day stretcher because those usually cap out around 2 pounds. So I would recommend starting to hang a little bit in the morning instead of pumping, and then do the midday pump and then before bed pump. And that way you still get like the shape change aspects, but you actually get the tissue fatigue you need to start growing girth. Okay, so Hitman, I'm not even sure what's going on at this point. Dictelligent, I'm getting 4% with just 25 minutes of male hanging and vibe. I'm scared. Why I'd be scared? That's exactly what I've been getting for the most part. Like I'm getting, like if we're talking fatigue, I've been getting about 3.5 to 4% in about 30 minutes. So like you're right there. The fatigues the tissue very quickly, so you don't need a lot of it. And then we'll know if it works if you grow, right? That's going to be the main thing. Even when I use like the tiny motors, I'm getting very similar fatigue rate hitting, you know, whatever it takes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes. Just keep with it. If you're like feeling numb after the fact, you probably want to actually turn down the vibration a little bit, but that might more so be the male hanger just squeezing your glands, right? Is BFR rings and cock rings basically the same thing for the purpose of engorgement? So, like when it comes to stuff on peak male physique, they're practically the same thing. It's just that the BFR rings are thinner and a bit more of a stiff rubber, so they make it much easier to stack than using like a cock ring that we sell as well. So if we're trying to like dial in a certain tension or engorgement range, it might make more sense to use the BFR rings. But like I predominantly use the white rings we sell for like post pump retention wear, and you know it works pretty well just for that. J-Bed's good to have me back again. Yeah, let's hope I don't get sick again. So just a quick update, guys. Tomorrow I am leaving for a road trip to meet Hink and Perv over the weekend. I should be able to stream. I'm not so sure about Friday. And then I have no idea what's happening Saturday, Sunday, Monday. But, you know, there's a good chance there's going to be a collab stream with both of them separately because I'm going to 2 separate cities. But you get the point. Robert, please get 9 hours of sleep each night for the next 7 days. I've got it the last 2 days for sure. Really, I just need to figure out if what's bothering me now is like indoor seasonal allergies or not. My wife just needs to catch up on sleep in general though, so. Let's go. I'm currently doing your manual stretches. If I only want to gain length, should I skip the expansion exercises? So the expansion exercises are going to increase your erection quality, which will in turn increase your length, right? I would strongly recommend still doing them, but make it a little bit easier on yourself. Get a penis bump if you can. and replace the mod gels with that, because like it's just much easier, more effective, and it's just easier to stick to in general. So I'm be still trying to get hired at this point. I could use a side cash ASAP, my Gmail. As far as contact info, I don't want to put my number on here. You can email us at help@peakmalephysique, and then we will consider it. But like, it's been busy, but the stuff that I need done in the office is not as like high priority, if that makes sense. So I saw this Hitman Waking Dream said 10 to 12 is not low pressure, and then Hitman, I don't know, I feel like anything under 10, I don't feel anything since I can go higher, but don't. So like, just because you don't feel it doesn't mean it's not overwork, right? Your body gets used to certain tolerances, particularly your nerves do. Like every time I get a tattoo, it gets a little bit easier, right? It's kind of the same idea. You get used to the sensation, and then it's just not as bad. But granted, depends how long I've been between sessions. I feel like the next session I get is gonna fucking suck. But point being, when you're doing something every day, let's say you're benching 225 every day and it sucks the same, like, you know, with exertion wise, but you don't get the same nervous system activity because it got used to that nervous system activity. So if you're pumping at 10 to 12 inches of mercury every day, you get used to that nervous system activity. Therefore, it feels numb compared to when it did when you started. Hello, Destroyer. Glad you're better. I'm on my way to being better, that's for sure. And then, let's see. Zode, do you think 8% of expansion in girth day over day can cause faster rate of expansion over time than the average of 4% expansion? Says, I got my new wider cylinder. Expansion has kicked up. So something interesting about the wider cylinder stuff. So I have like a ball pump, okay? So it's like a 2-stage cylinder. It's big enough to get my cock and balls in it. And I think that actually leads to more like base expansion, because like I'm literally pumping the root of my dick at the same time. I know someone talked about it before. I think her name's Susan Bratton, but I haven't done it enough to actually have any idea if it does anything beyond that. But anyway, 8% more, is 8% expansion rate better than 4% expansion rate for long-term gains? 8% would be like on the cusp of borderline edema, right? So like too much edema according to my model. I don't know how much is going to help compared to going to 4%. I know 4% is probably too low if we're accounting for edema. But so yeah, if we're looking at your question, 8% is going to be more effective than 4%, but you probably want to be shooting for like 6%, just because that way you don't have to worry about the edema response whatsoever. I can tell you then and there, you got enough work done. Even if you have a little bit of edema, it's not going to impact your gains. Okay, hold on. We skipped some people. Okay, now Mark. Hope you're feeling better. I'm getting there. First day since I started full-time on 12/12, my D just felt too beat up. Do I take one or wait a few more days off? Going great. 3 pumping sessions a day, 1 hanging. Okay, so if your dick's that beat up, right, we should probably cut back a little bit, particularly on those pumping sessions. And then I personally wait until my erection quality is like back to normal before I start doing PE after it's been really fatigued. So like that's going to be about anywhere from 3 to 7 days, depending on like how stressed I am outside of that. But like in general, 3 days is usually good enough to get like any malignant, I don't even know if malignant is the right word for it, but any overbeat tissue to like start to set properly, and then you ease your way back into it a bit. All right, Bleach Roll. I started at 5.1 in October, and then he is now 5.8 right now, so huge beginner gains. I'm still gaining like that'd be 1 millimeter more per week. Should I keep going or decondition even if I'm growing. So let's first make sure you don't have like any edema response. But like if you're still growing at that rate with like no swelling or anything like that, just keep going. I would recommend a deconditioning break, or it's more accurately a deload week when it's that short. But I just keep with it until you stop growing, and then that's when you take your break. Let's see, Malene, I am back. Yes, I am. Let's hope it stays that way, right? Okay, Forsaken, how fast should you gain while in the pump? The light room has ran out of juice, so I couldn't pump properly, but it seems like I'm closing in 7.5 on the pump. It's fast. So like in the pump, it's going to really depend on, like, first of all, your overall erection quality to start, and then you can gain a decent bit of length by just increasing the pressure, right? Because it goes deeper into your fat pad. So usually in general, pumping and then looking at your tube size is not the best unless like you really constrain it. So like for your first 5 minutes, however expanded you get with, let's say, 8 to 10 inches of mercury is what you base it off of. So like if you're getting bigger faster each time in that small constraint window, then it's actually gains, right? Or at least tissue changes. But as a beginner, it's going to come really fast in general. Like people really underestimate how fast newbie gains come in my opinion, especially when you actually have a dialed in routine like I provide. So let's see. And then to a similar question, I reached 8.1 inside my pump after apex. My BP is now 7.5. How much is the difference from length inside the pump? My 7.5 outside the pump, 8.1 inside the pump at the end. So like, I remember you carry a decent bit of weight, so there's a good chance it's just more so erection quality at that point. But for me, I am actually shorter in the pump because like I can't straighten out my curve, and it doesn't go as nearly as deep into my fat pad as it used to. I actually have to confirm that since I lost fat, it doesn't go as deep with at least my cylinders. But point being, there's no real good way to tell when you'll catch up to your in-pump size to your normal size, just because like there's so many variables involved. But like I feel like you get the erection quality figured out, you'll see it really increase. So Destroyer got the fat white cock rings from PMP. How many specifically are needed for hypoxic clamping? So those white fat cock rings, you probably aren't going to really get that good of hypoxia with it because they are very stretchy and they don't really compress as much as say like the BFR rings do, right? You would need probably 2 of those plus something under the cock ring, like another sleeve, to make it tight enough for it to actually work. I did clamp a decent bit with a cock ring similar with, they call it a girth band from LG hanger, but like you can use any silicone sleeve to put under it to protect your skin. And like it also dissipates the pressure a bit more, so you need less occlusion, believe it or not, since like you're covering a wider surface area, the more the veins compress, therefore you get more occlusion. But in general, I don't typically recommend the white rings for that. What the fuck? Do you ship to South Africa? I believe so. As long as your country doesn't have like weird sex laws, we will ship there. That's typically like Muslim states, India, and then sometimes I can't think of any other really. We have issues with Brazil and Korea too, just because they have very stringent export laws or import laws, but you know, we try to ship there too. I'm pretty sure South Africa is good to go. Now, Baby Peanut, would Hank agree with the body fat percentage? I would hope so, but it's hard to tell. Like, I've been kind of showing Hink, like, through our conversation and stuff like that, when I lose body fat, it is quite ugly most days because, like, part of the body fat loss response is swelling with water, and I have a relatively violent body fat swell because, like, it's part of the nutrient export, right? So for me, let's see. Not this one. Give me 1 second, guys. I might have to actually pull up messages with Hink. How do I search? Images. There we go. So let me switch screens real quick. Scene 2? You guys should have told me chat wasn't showing, unless it was just not showing right now. Okay, there we go. But anyway, scene 2. So these pictures are literally 3 days apart, and it's because I pissed out 4 pounds of water, right? So, like, that's why it makes it so difficult for some guys like myself to know where the fuck our body fat percentage is because, like, we'll literally shift phenotypes by like 3 to 4% within a day and a half. And if you don't have, like, the same violent swell like I do when it comes to body fat and everything else, then you're not going to really know that. And then Hink is also a bit of a genetic freak. So he has very good body proportions and then very good fat and then relatively tight skin. So he always is relatively vascular. He has to get very like fat from a fitness perspective to not have any vascularity. For me, like, I have skin like literally rubber, so it just never shows that well, like vascularity for me. But I like it. I know it sounds like I'm making excuses. It's just talking about what I'm up against if I'm actually going to hit my goals, right? Okay. Grains burner account. What does it mean if I hit 10% elongation? So, like, from a classical sense, that means you are very close to a full-on rupture of the tissue because collagenous tissues cannot stretch that much, at least depending how quickly you do it. But it's more often than not that you have like a very tense flaccid to begin with, and like you're not actually measuring your true starting size. So like what I would recommend you actually do is massage your dick a bit, then measure that, and then see if how much that delta will change. So, okay, opinions on Fallis and Forte and their study. Okay, I know the price is silly, but I'm very curious on your honest opinion. So my honest opinion is like it's not worth your money. Any other PE product is probably going to be just as effective, if not more effective. Their study was paid for by them, which makes it exceptionally biased, right? I know it will work. It's just a matter of like it's not going to tell you 1.9 inches or whatever it was in that short of a time frame is physically not possible. Let me just double check. And of course, my computer wants to be slow. So 4.9 centimeters in 6 months of use is what their marketing claims. So I just can use it in my American brain. 2.55. They're promising 2 inches in 9 months. I don't know a single person that has gained 2 inches in length in a year, let alone 9 months or 6 months. So like, it's bullshit. Like their marketing is bullshit. The device is fine if you don't consider the price. I would strongly recommend getting something else. Okay, Baby Peanut, how do you know if you get lymphatic issues again? So basically, you'll get some kind of swelling that's semi-permanent. It's going to be like a lymphocele, which is like a little bubble starting to form in your lymphatic system. And you can also get like a string under the skin that's a really clogged lymph channel. All this is some kind of lymphatic clogging, but depending on how it's shaped and everything else, it kind of, they all are roughly the same injury for the most part. It's just some clogs are different than others, right? So if your dick is no longer flush and uniform on the skin when flaccid, even erect too, it's probably more obvious erect. you have some kind of lymphatic issue. Adam, is your King's Maker routine still legit? It's probably still legit, it just might be a bit overkill. And then most of the stuff in there is superseded by using vibrations, it would seem. So like the massage mechanics, for example, you could just put on a vibration motor like this one on your dick, set it to like 30 hertz, and that's just going to vibrate the dick to the point where it relaxes on its own. But like, I'm pretty confident in the King's Maker routine. Everything is probably leads up to something very similar to it, like beforehand. Okay, Ali, smoke 1 cigarette per day. Will it affect my gain? Should I quit? I would recommend switching to something that's only nicotine. So like whether it's Nicorette gum or, you know, some kind of vape, because like I don't even think nicotine is that awful for you. It's just very addictive. It's all the other shit in the cigarette that's killing you. And that's like giving you lung cancer and everything else. So like if you get something that's mostly nicotine to just get that buzz, you'll avoid a lot of the health issues with it. It's just like vaping though has other stuff that we haven't studied. So like your safest bet is probably going to be like a Nicorette gum. If you're very serious about PE and want to increase erection quality, cutting out smoking is going to be one of the best things you can do. Now, Tula, the edema is mainly foreskin. I'm uncut. My shaft is thicker and veinier and longer. So like if we're talking about you doing feeder sets, then don't change anything. You're on the right path. Just be careful, because if we're constantly stretching out that foreskin and having it swollen like that, it will grow thicker and longer, which, you know, some guys might be into it, but you know, it can get in the way. Okay, Voice of Osiris. PE for 9 months, 3 weeks of deconditioning in November. I'm not growing at the base. I've gained 5 ms in girth and 0.5 in length. I have a turkey neck and it can be sucked in the tube. Is that halting the base? So like if your skin's swelling like crazy, it will limit your base gains a bit. And I finally noticed it with my own training. So all you got to do is wear like a ball stretcher or like a pump sleeve to keep as much skin out as possible, and I'll grow the base. Additionally, you might just need a bigger tube to compensate for the amount of skin swell that you get. So like if I really wanted to grow my base in particular, I'd have to use like a 2.5 cylinder, just because that makes sure that my skin can fully expand with everything else under it. And then to add my base girth question, I saw clamp 5, 10-minute sets and manuals too. That's a lot of work, my guy. It probably would work, but I think just getting a wider base cylinder is going to be your best bet if you've been pumping. And then Humvee, I keep losing suction or get irritation with the stretcher. Help for that. Am I overstretching? And probably not overstretching, but you might need like a new sleeve. Mainly for me, what causes like valve slippage, like vacuum hanger slippage, is that there's crap in the bell that needs to be cleaned out right around where the seal starts. So like letting it soak in vinegar for 15 minutes and then, you know, playing with the little nipple. So like the nipple as in this part here to like pull out any of the crap usually helps a lot. And then if this is the sleeve issue, you'd be able to see like abrasions and rips in the sleeve if you inspect it closely. That would be my starting point. If neither of those work, then you just have a faulty bell. And if you got it from us within like the past 3 months, just hit us up on Peak Male Physique and then we'll send you a new one. Okay, Rebone. After my pumping session 2 days ago, I noticed I have a little bit more edema than usual. Also have a rice grain sized lump under my foreskin. Should I stop PE until this goes away, or should I keep going? So, you know how we've been talking about lymphoseals? This is what we're talking about. This little bump after pumping that sticks around longer than it should. What you should do is wait till it drains before you do PE. But I get that can be a bit hard. So another thing you can do is literally massage out that lump, because all it is some kind of clog in your lymphatic system. So like if you like basically go thumb over it very lightly for, let's say, 2 minutes every 3 to 4 hours, it'll help drain it much faster. Now, don't pump up that much again, because that led to that lymphocele. So like that's going to be your safe limit for now, and I would recommend staying below that until, let's say, 3 to 6 months from now, and we can reassess. Do you know when Hank will have his trial results on the PMP website? I think he's typed it up. I just don't know if we ever got to the point where he handed it off to me and then I handed it off to Waking Dream to put it up. I have no clue. I guess it's been a fucking madhouse for both of us lately. So soon enough, hopefully. Let's see. J-Beds, week 2 in my month break, and I'm dying to get back to my routine. See, like, I've been half-assing PE so much because I've been so fucking busy, and like, just trying to figure out how to add it back in is stressing me out, so I'm not even going to worry about it until next month at this point. So get busy. Focus on something else. Nacho Macho, what is the safe length of time to have a cock ring on? So like for retention, you don't need it for more than 20 minutes. 10 minutes seems to be plenty. For like sex, upwards of 40 minutes, and it depends how tight it is. Basically, we're just trying to avoid any tingling when we're wearing a cock ring. But like after pumping, we have to worry about like that lymphatic issue that, you know, keeps popping up. So that's why we limit it to 10 to 20 minutes. Okay. I mean, I'm doing 2 sets, 15 minutes of compression hanging in the AM and PM, so for 1 hour total. You need to work on your writing, my friend. Be a bit more specific so that way I don't judge you for overworking. Okay. Do women, ask Antolian Tiger, find muscular men attractive on social media? Sometimes I hear women don't find muscularity very attractive. Are we building muscles mainly to impress other men? Women find muscularity attractive to a point. Most women will find an athletic body, as in someone who's hit 80% of their natural potential, very attractive, barring body fat. Most women don't need us to be as lean as other men want us to be. There's actually a bit of a reason for that, like psychologically speaking, because like if we were back in caveman times, if you were that lean and there's a famine, you're the first to die, and therefore you can't provide for them. So a little bit of body fat is actually useful, and it's probably one of the reasons why dad bods are actually liked, is because it shows that they're eating well enough. Now, they will find muscular men attractive. And then onto your other part, men in romantic novels are always described as muscular, so I'm a bit confused because they don't have the female equivalent to that, so it would make them insecure. Again, I think when you use terms like muscular, it is relative, right? So muscular to my wife is going to be like, you know, up to something in a Marvel movie, and then anything past like a Marvel movie of a normal human being is going to be like a freak show. She told me that when I was like 230 some pounds, she did not want me getting any more muscular or bigger because like it was just too much, right? Now, not so much, but she obviously doesn't want me getting much more muscular than this. She reads some pretty hardcore romance novels, if I'm being honest. They don't really talk about weight and everything like that. So like whatever the author is saying is muscular is what the author says is muscular, and it matches the female fantasy. So whoever you're trying to fucking talk to, ask them what they consider muscular is, because you're probably not on the same page as a guy. All right, MailNet. How to get rid of glands discoloration. The creams don't work. So discoloration is 2 things. 1, increased redness in the skin from building up blood vessels. So you won't really be able to remove additional redness just by default. It's part of the deal. You get more erection quality, the redder you get. Then with like actual discoloration from like hemosiderin staining, that requires exfoliation because you got to continuously bring up the stain for it to come out. That takes a lot of time, and if the lotion's on an actual exfoliator, you're not going to get any real results from it. You will see a loss of discoloration over time, but since dick skin is relatively short on the, what is it called, turnover rate, it has a long turnover rate. So it's not going to be nearly as fast as if you have like a mark on your hand that's constantly turning over compared to your dick. Okay. For length, I do 30 minutes of Apex, 5 minutes, or 5 sets, 5-minute sets, there we go. And then he goes from 7 pounds, or he stays at 7 pounds at the beginning. No, my God, I can't read. So like if you're going from 8 to 8 1/3, you are definitely well within your work range, and I wouldn't change anything, and don't change anything until you don't hit that. And actually you should probably take a break and then come back and see if you can hit the same thing at the same stretch point, you know, workload, before you start adding stuff. Kenny, just start hanging 10 pounds, no issues. So while that's fine, I know people have done that, it's more so like you were starting off here and there's this much room for you to grow at lower weights. And like if you get up to 15, you literally have limited how much work you can do before you need a break. Because like I think the safe range is 15 pounds. So for me, starting at 5 pounds and then working your way up slowly makes a lot more sense if we're just trying to eke out as much gains as possible. But if you've done PE before, then it's going to be a bit more of a nuance than that. Hold on. This just keeps moving. Okay. Could you talk about techniques to expand farther half of the pee in the glands? My base appears to be getting more expansion. I like to prefer a uniform shaft plus larger glands. So you just get a narrow cylinder that does not allow your base to expand, but the top half of your shaft too. So again, my base girth is about 7 inches. My mid shaft girth is just over 6. I can use a 2 1/8 cylinder to like completely limit the base from expanding for the first 3 or 4 inches. But then the top half of my dick expands to match the same shape as my dick at the base. It is a long process, but like I basically had a 7-inch base for a while and only had a 5 1/4 mid shaft girth. And I was able to add 3/4 of an inch to my mid shaft just by limiting how much my base can expand. So like just don't let your base expand and the top half will do the rest. So what's the most expensive tattoo I have? I mean, I have a lot of them and they're all roughly the same price because like I get them in pieces, right? So this was one piece, this was one piece, and then every part of my dragon here was a separate piece. So like my dragon was probably like, I don't know, 800 bucks. I know this was relatively cheap at 300 because it was a really fast job. But in general, for me, it's about 150 an hour in the chair each time, and each tattoo is about 2 to 3 hours, like each piece. So like, I probably spent $2,000 on tattoos in total so far. If you guys do get tattoos, I'm telling you now, don't go cheap. Make sure they have a good portfolio, all that shit, because like this is on your body forever, and I can't tell you how many people who've had tattoos for about the same time as me already has a black smudge, because at first did black and white, and 2, because they just went to someone that could do it for 50 bucks and they got $50 worth of work on something that's supposed to be permanent. So please spend the money and get something good. Can you explain edema when pumping, AJ? Edema is literally just swelling, right? So like you can have subcutaneous edema, which is going to be under the skin, and then you can have edema in the corpus cavernosum, and that's where we actually want it. I call that swelling and expansion. And then the stuff that's under the skin is going to feel like puffy, is what I call edema, and that's what we want to avoid because it actually puts negative pressure on the corpus cavernosum. I don't know if it's negative, but it's not good pressure on the corpus cavernosum, so it actually pushes out expansion in the corpus cavernosum while leaving all that swell in the skin. So like long term, you do not want to have a lot of subcutaneous edema. That's usually shaped like all heading up towards the glands because there's a lot of loose skin towards the glands, and that's where it tends to pool. Now, is 20 inches of mercury too much? 20 inches of mercury is going to be 5 times the working limit of your dick. Because like, let's say you have a 5 inches of mercury natural erection pressure. This is a good starting point for most guys at least. If we add 20 inches of mercury to that, we're literally 5xing the strength curve of the penis. I have seen studies that said the failure rate for the tunica albuginea, the stuff that we're pumping up, is about 30 inches of mercury. Could have been 50, but point being is if it's 30, you're literally right there, like one sneeze away from literally rupturing your tunica albuginea. It is way too much. I have gotten most of my gains being between 8 to 12 inches of mercury. Okay, Xmas. How big was Johnny Sins non-bone press and bone press length and girth when he was in his prime? So like girth, he really wasn't particularly impressive. Like at most he was 5.5 mid shaft, like with the best erection he ever had. But like normally it'd probably be about 5 1/4 mid shaft. And then length, I would give him 8 inches bone pressed, and then anywhere from 7 3/4 to 7.5 inches non-bone pressed. It's a little bit hard to tell over the curve and with his muscularity, but in general, he had a big dick, but it wasn't like a huge dick that you would see like elsewhere. He's more famous because of how much porn he's been in and not because of his, you know, unit. Adam, do we still measure curve D's with a straight ruler? I feel like my straight ruler doesn't account for my curve. So like, it depends on what study you're going off of. What's up, Opal? If it depends on what study you go off of, if you use a tailor's tape or a ruler. Assholes online are going to force you to use a ruler. So if you're trying to take pics, use a ruler. Try to straighten out your curve as best as you can. But if you're doing it for yourself, measure along the curve. Just make sure you're not pushing to the side of the mons pubis and directly onto the pubic bone to get the most accurate measurement every time. Oh, you're okay. My wife just went to a doctor's appointment, and that's why we have the little one, the 85-pound little one. Let's see. Adam, edema under the frenulum and uncut when I extend. It's a problem long term. It does go away after several hours. I use a wide trick and refuse to tape. So like I get a sizable amount of edema right under the glands where you get your frenulum edema. It's not a huge deal. If anything, it's just going to cause your glands to be more pronounced in that shape, so you get more of like that spade shape over time. But like, it's not going to hurt you. If anything, it's just going to make you grow more sensitivity because it's going to help grow more blood vessels and nerve endings and all that jazz. Okay, waking dream. Expectations of what you're doing to gain in the future is a bad idea. You never know, just keep it up and do your best. I only got 1/4 in the past year, and I am a practice vet. We should probably talk about your routine and see what we can do to improve it, because like, I kind of believe most guys can gain at least a 1/2 inch in length every year, just straight up. That being said, I think people know now that I'm a relatively high responder and lucky more than anything else. But we can talk about it. Okay, I gotta leave this little shithead out, and I will be back in like a minute. Come on. Go. All right, sorry about that, guys. So Grant's burner account, and I think I skipped actually, hold on. My lead, I'm currently at 7 inches bone press and then 5.1 inches girth. Is it possible for me to get to 5.5 inches of girth in the year also? To everyone, please like the live. You guys can like it. It doesn't really impact me all that much, but it does help the algorithm. What was I gonna say? That's a little under half an inch of girth in a year. That would be like in the, it's possible, but I wouldn't count on it. It's more like, it's probably going to take you more like 14 to 16 months to get to it, really. But, you know, if you get lucky, then you get lucky. Okay. Grains burner account. Is the tense flaccid the same thing as tight pelvic floor? Not necessarily. I wonder if I could start stretching the pelvic floor instead of doing deep massages. By the way, I measure the vacuum belt on before the session and then after, but you take the vacuum belt off when you measure both times, right? It could be tight pelvic floor, but like there's two things going on potentially. So like if you're in a tight, tense, shriveled state, the corpus cavernosum is smooth muscle tissue. Therefore, it responds to being in a sympathetic state, and that's what makes you shrivel. On top of that, your collagenous tissues also have a bit of a flexion response. So like if you're always tense and you pull on it, you're not going to be able to get to like full length until you relax. So like if we relax your dick and then pull on it, we should be able to see a decent bit of relaxation just from measuring that delta, right? And then the tight pelvic floor could also cause that, but like it's usually both than just one, because like if you have a tight pelvic floor, it translates right to the dick. They're next door neighbors. So I'll put it this way then. If anyone says you can get 1 inch in a year, I expect they're being disingenuous. So I say you can get probably an inch in your first year, and then you can probably expect about a half an inch every year after that. I have seen people routinely gain 1 inch in length a year. I gained about 3/4 of an inch in length last year, but a lot of it was returned to form. So it's hard to tell if that's like true gains or not. This upcoming year, once I finally sit down and actually do PE for an extended period of time, we can test it at least on myself. But saying that you can gain 2 inches in 6 months is fucking nonsense. Blue Fisher, would you say that vacuum hanging is a good way to start working on length? I think using manuals is the best way to start because you learn how the tension feels more than anything else. But in general, you can start with devices. You just got to start really slow because like they're much easier to overload, therefore hurt yourself. So like 2.5 pounds, 20 minutes over the first month, get up to 5 pounds, 20 minutes, and then start adding 5 to 10 minutes every 3 weeks or so to like maximize how long you hold that weight. Once you get to a point where you can no longer add more time reasonably, then you slowly add weight, and we're talking like we're adding 2.5 pounds this set, and then the rest are going to be just 2.5 pounds. So it'll be 5, 2, 2, 2, repeating. Then the next month we'll do, okay, 5 pounds, and then back down to 2.5, and continuously do that until we're at 5 pounds completely, and then slowly go up. So let's go. I am 6 inches in length and 5.5 in girth. Do you think I should do PE in both directions? My goal is aesthetics and making my GF feel the best. So like 5.5 inches in girth is going to be plenty for like sexual satisfaction. 6 inches, speaking from experience, if the woman doesn't have much experience with it, it's a bit much. So I wouldn't really touch your girth goal for now and focus on length more than anything else. Mark, okay, 8 a.m. pump, 10 1-minute sets, then 2 5-minute sets, all pumping 300 millimeters of mercury, so that's about 12 kilopascals, and then 2 12 kilopascals, 12 inches of mercury, and then 2 p.m. hanging, 10 1-minute sets with 5 pounds, then 4 by 5 for a total of 30 minutes. Okay, and then pumping 10 1-minute set, 1 10-minute set, followed by 5 minutes of pumping. Hold on, 8 p.m. 2 to 3 5 minutes pumping. Is this too much? It could be too much. I would personally cut down on the pumping middle of the day a bit. If it's 20 minutes total, you're only going to really need 10 because you already pumped up beforehand. But like, the best way to tell is if your erection quality drops. If your erection quality drops and your erection frequency drops, that's how you know you're doing too much work. If you haven't taken a break in a while, take a break just so you can test this easier. Your erection quality should be the same, if not better, than what it was at the beginning without any fatigue. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Okay. TJ, when I come out of the pump, my right side is purple and the left is not, literally a line dividing it left and right. Okay, that's a bit weird. I can tell you that I know my corpus cavernosum is slightly smaller on my right side than my left side. So like if the left side, if you have the similar shape issue, pushes too deep into the corpus cavernosum, you could cause some kind of discoloration that way, because like you are going to be obstructing the flow more on the left side than the right side. And then it's going to be more so that your skin's not getting adequate flow more than anything else. So yeah, I would keep an eye on it, but if it doesn't have any like negative side effects, it's probably not that big of a deal. Bendick, is the 1.75 cylinder too big for a 4 1/4 girth? It's probably good enough. Like it might, let's see, as 1.3 inches of room of expansion, but like the next smaller size is a 1.5, and that would only allow you to have like maybe 1/4 inch of expansion off the top of my head. So like I would get the 1.75. And then something called a pump sleeve to limit like your balls getting pulled up into the cylinder. It's gonna help with comfort and then help just isolate the shaft more. But like it should be good, but definitely don't get a 2.0. Para DYM, congrats on your weight loss journey, keep going. So I'm actually almost done with my weight loss. I am at 205, the goal is 200. And I need a break from cutting. It's been a very aggressive cut, and we're going to be cutting for 10 to 12 weeks, right? I'd like to think I look very good at the weight I am for not having really good ab developments, as I showed a little bit of pubes by accident. This obviously can get better, but like between not having the greatest abdomen genetics, I think I'm at a very good spot. I could always try to get leaner later, but I just need a bit of a break for the next month or so. So Megas Knox, while those live sections are really useful, much tiny details that help a ton in some, which are not mentioned anywhere else. So like, they probably are mentioned somewhere else. It's just that these organic conversations allow me to like word things differently that make more sense to a lot more people, right? Now, Brad, I am great, thank you. You owe Hank and I for my journey improved self-esteem since starting PE. My tunica is more rib now. Is that scar tissue or will that go away if I take Shield? So you don't need to take supplements to fix this. I would say massage is going to help, because like what's happening is you're just having collagen build up on top of the tunica. So all you got to do is smooth it out, like literally iron it out. So like you could try gua sha. You could also try, what is the other thing? Like BFR massage as well. But there's some guys that do have this natural ribbing in their tunica. And it's like going to be 2 or 3 ridges near the base. You can work on it. It's not going to really do anything for you potentially, but you know, if you had it originally, you just made it more pronounced with PE. Man, I have just a little bit of snot on my nose. It's getting a bit annoying. Peanut, is Hank still struggling against vibrations? Probably. We haven't talked about it in a while. The reason why we didn't bring any of this to market is 1, his reservations, and 2, we are yet to see anyone come remotely close to having the same results I had with it. So like either I was a fluke or no one's doing it right. Tony, I find myself getting significantly more edema at 10 inches of mercury versus 9 inches of mercury. Should I stay erect in the sweet zone? Or should I just stay in the sweet zone or push it? I would stay at 9. There's no real point to gain edema unless like you haven't really gained anything in the past 3 months or so. Then we probably want to, you know, push the envelope with edema, see what happens. But in general, I tend to stay away from the point where I get edema. So that's going to be about 12 inches of mercury. That's where it's dangerous. Not dangerous, but, you know, probably not optimal for my dick long term. Okay. How the hell did Yogi go from 6 inches bone press to 9 inches non-bone press? That makes no sense. Well, first of all, he got surgery. Second of all, he did PE for about 10, 12 years. Third of all, he got in better shape. So like between all of that, he is just better, right? Like if you've been working on self-improvement for a decade, you can gain a lot of progress in a short amount of time, especially if you get surgery. So, Eddie, I did not see the Eddie questions. At least I don't think I did. Yeah, not seeing your questions, dude, so figure out what bad word you used. I am skipping Hitman a bit because he asked a lot of questions. So... Okay, Antolia Tiger. I meant muscularity in general. I hear often that being jacked isn't attractive, even though men in romantic novel covers are jacked as hell. So are men in romantic movies? See Jacob Black in Twilight. And then you have fucking Edward Collins in Twilight, who's like 140 pounds soaking wet. So like, again, I get a lot of looks for my muscularity, but I also have a very handsome face, okay? So there's a lot more to it than that. And like, people tend to associate highly muscular individuals with high levels of vanity and selfishness. Women do not desire those traits as much as they just desire good-looking bodies, right? So there's just a spectrum to it. And like, again, we're talking about something written with subject. And like, just because a movie picked Taylor Lautner to be the guy, who really isn't all that muscular, all things considered. Like for a 16-year-old, he is jacked to shit. But like for someone who in his late 20s when they filmed it originally, he wasn't that crazy muscular, right? So I think you're falling a bit into the same trap that I did when I was younger. You're literally comparing yourself to grown-ass men, and like that's going to just make it very hard for you to understand what you should be like at a younger age, right? What would I recommend myself for length and girth if you could only do 40 minutes of PE a day? So like, does that, if I can't do feeder sets, I've only really do PE 40 minutes a day to begin with. So like I'll be doing 30 minutes of vibration with, 30 minutes of extending with vibration and then 10 minutes of pumping, and that's it. And like, I've grown pretty well with just that. And then if I can, with these rules, it'd just be adding 2 10-minute feeder sets. And that'll be at least getting me to my length goals. And then I'd switch to a girth focused routine once I hit 10 inches long. Okay. And then Megas Knox, women are complex. There's a whole set of traits that are attractive, like height, social status, much to the current galaxy. I don't know what galaxy has to do with it, but yeah, it doesn't even have to be social status. It just has to be something valuable to the woman that they think is important, right? So like, some women do not really care for intelligence, but like, for example, my wife would not have married me if I was not an intelligent human being, and vice versa, right? So like, just because society has these traits that are considered desirable does not necessarily mean every woman will find them desirable. Okay. So why didn't huge Hung Yogi get PMA, but he got Pneuma instead? I would assume it's just because where he lived, Pneuma was more popular, and Pneuma promises length when they really shouldn't. And he was one of the lucky ones that actually gained length with it because he had such a stretch flaccid from doing PE. In general, that's probably why he did it. It was instantaneous because, like with Pneuma, you don't get a lot of swelling and then you get a lot of swelling. Not Pneuma, PMMA. You get a lot of swelling over time that turns into permanent tissue. And then with Pneuma, it is instantaneous. You have a new dick literally the next day. With PMMA, your peak size doesn't really happen until like month 4, if I remember correctly. But yeah. Tactic, hey Grant, when will you be doing part 2 of the weight loss journey? So like I've been filming it, but like I'm not gonna put it up until like I'm done with this cut. So like it's gonna be another 2 weeks. Hopefully my stomach flattens out a little bit more, but like, you know, genetics be damned at that point. And then we'll go from there. Hot Sunshine, I don't know if my question was answered, but does pumping help straighten the curve? Yes, it will. It's just not going to be the most effective thing. So like if you want to straighten your curve, all you got to do is break it down the curve a little bit with PE and then hold that straight state for an extended period of time. So like do 20 to 30 minutes of pumping, let the edema settle a bit, and then wear an all-day stretcher for like 6 hours. And that's going to be the most optimal way to straighten out your curve. So waking dream, my point is that everyone is different. We are going to grow different. We all are going to do PE slightly different, and our bodies are going to respond differently. Expecting a certain gain can lead to disappointment. I largely agree with that sentiment, but I also think there is room for optimization. A lot of people are leaving gains on the table if they don't optimize, right? So while I understand where you're coming from, and this is literally kind of my entire spiel with my upcoming cut log, there's a fine line between underselling what PE can accomplish and then telling people that you can gain 6 inches in 2 months. Yeah, 2 inches in 6 months, right? So what I'm trying to do is be optimistic without like overly making you feel like you can't do it when you fail first, or you know, out that one time, right? Eddie, I literally see your message retracted and I literally don't see your other messages. So figure out your English here and figure out what word you are messing up so I can at least respond to you. Thanos, greetings from Greece. I just received my pump and mail hanger from your site. Very pleased. Well, awesome. That's great to hear. We have been having a lot of international shipping issues. Forsaken, does L-citrulline PD5 inhibitors like Cialis work worse if someone is overweight? It makes sense that they would not work well because of poor blood flow. It's more so the amount of tissue they have more than the lack of blood flow, because like it will cause vasodilation regardless. I would actually expect them to have a bit more dramatic response than someone who has like a healthy heart, because like their tissues are going to be exceptionally sensitive to vasodilation at that point. So it's going to be more so, again, how much they weigh versus how bad their heart health is in. Okay, so I wanted to start off with manuals. Where can I find the best routine for it? I've heard that it can be dangerous if done incorrectly, so I want to know what I'm doing. So on my channel, literally, if you go to the page, first page, the home page of my channel rather, all things manual is going to be the first video linked. Then if you go to the Reddit r/gettingbigger, check the pinned post. I have a free manuals routine posted. And then if you go to a Pornhub under the same name as this YouTube channel, you'll find my 2024 manuals routine. Okay, BP guy, would 21 minutes manual stretches be enough for length? More than likely. I do think you probably want some kind of massage mechanics to help with growth factor release and shape change. And then any kind of girth will go a long way at the very beginning, but you know, I can't really knock you for not doing it right away. Now, everlasting, would I give up 5 inches of height for a 10-inch non-bone press monster? No. I love how tall I am. It is quite tall without being like crazy enough that it will impact my health metrics. It is very rare that I see, I guess it's not overly rare because of where I live, but like I will see 6'4" and 6'5" guys, but like they're nothing to really, you know, make me comment because my family's just that fucking tall. Yeah, no, I'd rather just grow my dick to 10 inches non-bone press and keep my height. Okay, so Waking Dream. I think your responses are great. I just think the question itself is flawed. The question is, how much will I grow? Is probably not the best place for your head to be in. It's more so like, what can I do to grow rather than how much can I grow? Because like, I still don't think there's a limit to PE. Like, I can't find any like biological reason that you can't grow your dick to like literally 20 inches long. It might not function because, you know, lack of blood flow, but you can do it. So yeah, I agree with that. All right, guys, I'm probably going to go for, let's see, 8 more minutes and then head out. The ranch hand. Looking at a pump with a smart attachment does not hold for 2 minutes as you suggest, rather pumps up immediately, releases, and then pumps up again. Is that effective? There's different kinds of these. So like, I would not get that one in particular. Like my smart pump, you can program to do just that. You can also program it to do extended set periods like 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, even up to 20 minutes. But there's also other stuff like the Love Magna that does a whole bunch of different pulsing settings as well. So like, just get something that has options rather than just getting stuck in whatever cheap smart pump you found. Thanos, I got edema from an automatic pump even though I use low pressure in intervals. I noticed my erection subsided after the first interval, but can you advise not removing the cylinder in between intervals? So like, you will get edema. It's like, the question is how much edema is permitted, and, you know, safe and does not impact gains. So to me, anything over 10% expansion is going to probably be too much for your dick to reasonably recover from and actually have negative impact on PE. So like, we're going to expect a little bit of edema, especially if you're just starting, because edema is part of the stress response. So if we're being even as careful as possible, using low pressures will pull in edema. And actually, if you use too low of a pressure, all you're actually doing is pulling water in passively under the skin. So like, we actually need to figure out the range, which again is usually between 5 to 7 inches of mercury, for beginners to see like tissue stress without an insane amount of edema. Going too low, you're actually only going to be pulling in fluid a bit, and then going too high, you're going to be really just stressing out the structures of your tissue, which actually leads to even more edema from that too. So there's a lot in play, but you know. Megas Knox, got a device measuring wood time during night. Do you have any experience with such a metric? I do not, but it would be useful just to see if you're overworking or not, that's for sure. If it's less than $200, I would consider it. Nate, roughly what's too much edema, just because we talked about it. So like, I'm 6 inches mid-shaft girth, right? My safe expansion range would then be 6 to 8% of that. So like, that's going to be from like 6.3 to 6.4, maybe even up to 6.5. Going up beyond 6.6 is where it's literally just swelling of the tissue. Beyond that point, where I can almost guarantee you we're not causing any actual changes in the collagenous structure and just causing the skin to bloat with a lot of water, essentially. So like 6 to 8% is where you want to be when it comes to girth work. All right, Eddie, I am still not seeing your question, so I might have to put you in timeout if you keep saying that I have. Let's see. I think the most underrated trait is charisma. I see a lot of ugly guys out of shape. Dudes still get women because they have a way about them. It's like, yeah, if you're able to communicate well with anyone, you really increase your chances of them liking you. But like, there's a lot of women that don't want a pretty man. And this is a bit complicated to explain to you guys. But like, women want to be, or at least these women, want to be the trophy, the belle of the ball. And if they have a partner that is as attractive, if not more attractive than them, it makes them very insecure. So they'd rather be dating a 4 while they're a 7, or, you know, a 5 when they're a 10 or whatever, just because it's easier for their psyche to be, you know, the pretty one in the relationship. And then there's people that just don't give a shit about looks and how they make them feel. But in general, there are women that will just pick a relatively ugly man to be their long-term partner solely because there's less of potential insecurity from that. Okay, is YouTube like missing comments or something? Because like whoever B is kind of just rambling some nonsense. Okay, there we go. Having charisma is an excuse to be fat, lazy specimen. It's not, but like, it doesn't mean you won't get laid because you can sweet talk people, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you're fat if you're getting laid to some people. I prefer to be in good shape. I think I'm relatively charismatic, but you know, there are people that are swinging way above their leagues just because they can talk than looking good. Okay. Hot Sunshine, do you still think water pump? Or do you still sell water? Do I sell a water pump? I do not sell a water pump at this time. We literally have a vendor picked out to get water traps, but we just haven't pulled the plug on it yet. Forsaken, I think the limit to P may be time or how long time. You may still gain, but it will be so slow that it will not be noticeable. So I might as well limit to that point. So like, most of the data suggests that you actually get more stem cells in tissues the more often you stretch them. So if anything, you should be gaining faster technically from a percentage base than previous. But like if we're talking about volume, since volume increases exponentially, it's probably why gains slow down. But again, I still gain pretty fast, and I'm in year 10 of this, or 12 of this actually. So to me, it's more so that people don't avoid the strength adaptation than anything else, and that's why they can limit gains. But like if you take a year off, you lose all that strength adaptation, you're back to gaining relatively easy again. Okay, Teddy, how many gains can I make from 8 to 10 inches of mercury pumping 1 hour a day? Been trying 10 sets, 10 minutes, 6, hold on. 10 minute sets, 6 sets total, and I got almost an inch of length more in the tube. So like the problem with more length in the tube is that sometimes the expansion actually just pushes your glands up onto the tube rather than actually getting longer. So like if you get a ball of edema below your glands, it's pushing your glands up, it changes the angle, and you can literally look half an inch longer that way, right? I can't tell you how much gains you can make with that. I honestly think it's highly inefficient what you're doing. So you can keep at it. I can't tell you how long it's going to work or how well it's going to work. Okay, BP guy, is it possible to gain with fibrosis? So like if you treat your fibrosis, you'll gain size. So like I would make that your focus, because like fibrosis is stiff tissue, right? I think if you break that down, you release healthy tissue, and that's what's going to make you bigger faster, because it's a form of shape change at the end of the day. So I would largely just make your routines about massage mechanics and light pumping to get that tissue to break up. Once it's fully healthy, you should actually see sizable improvements, at least in that area, whether it be localized girth or a bit of length as well. And then we can add in more PE stuff to actually get you growing new tissue. All right, last one, or last two rather, maybe three. So Jared, yes, I think YouTube is missing comments. My questions isn't coming through, but this one did. Fantastic. Thoughts on ball stretching? I don't particularly need to, but like if you've ever seen me, like my nudes, my balls are quite fucking low to begin with. It's helpful. You can potentially get like longer testicles, not necessarily bigger testicles, from the gravity, but it does work. It's relatively easy because it's literally like stretching a ligament in skin. That's about it. And then, yeah, that's about it. Then, Everlasting, do you think pumping after length work helps length gains? Almost without a doubt. Wouldn't it be like filling up a stretch balloon and training it to get longer? Basically, that's what I say. I just use a sausage analogy rather than a balloon. And then Guyberg, the pump sucking in the skin around the D can be a problem. Like the skin in the area can be stretched out permanently. Is it hard to prevent the skin from getting sucked in, even with a ball ring on? So like you can expect some of your skin to get pulled in with it. The goal is to not have your entire fucking fat pad pulled in with it, because that means you're just going to be pumping your fat pad rather than your dick. Fat expands faster than dick, so like you can actually grow your fat pad if you're not careful. But if like you have like a 1/4 of an inch of a variance on the sides and you pull in that skin from there, it's not a big deal. But like if you can literally fit your entire nutsack in the tube, like with the balls, then it's probably too much. Okay, just because I saw this one coming, I'll be fast. Does Peanut Master Pro work? It probably works, but it's probably not worth your money. There are a lot more effective devices at that price point, but it largely depends where you live if you can get it like affordably. And that will be it for today, guys. So hopefully I'll be streaming tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern time, and save your questions for then. I guess, real quick, JD, do you predict that you'll reach 10 inches within the next year? I'm definitely going to be over 9.5. I can't say 10 inches for sure. If I am, you should best believe I'm showing that shit off. So, anyway, I will see you guys in the next one.